government is working with other stakeholders to structure medical and life insurance cover.
Federal government to institute medical and life insurance to protect frontline health workers in the fight against COVID-19.
Patients seem to be profiling well.
Lagos State government discharges 4 more patients from mainland hospital Yaba as coronavirus spread intensifies in the state. Ministry of Foreign Affairs directs mission abroad to compile list of Nigerians willing to return home.
We are prepared to carry the President directive.
Federal government set to release 70,000 metric tons of grains as palliative measures in the fight against COVID-19. A very warm evening to you and thanks for joining us on the news at 9. I am Juma Yusuf and we are beaming live from Abuja, the nation's capital. As usual, I'm not alone. I have Jennifer Igwe in Lagos. Thank you so much for joining us. 6 cases. 6 cases of COVID-19 have been reported in Osun State, Nigeria. As at 11 a.m., 3rd April, there are 190 confirmed cases of COVID-19 reported in Nigeria. 20 have been discharged with 2 deaths. The federal government is working with other stakeholders to institute medical and life insurance cover for the protection of frontline health workers engaged in the fight against COVID-19. Chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 and Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, announced this at today's briefing in Abuja. Mitare Ekpen tells us more.
As the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 coordinates the national strategy to contain the pandemic, it is not forgetting the sacrifices of essential workers who put their lives on the line to safeguard the health of the nation.
Government is working with other stakeholders to structure medical and life insurance cover. I therefore wish to assure them of our commitment and urge them to put in their utmost best.
Law enforcement agents were warned by the task force to be humane in enforcing restrictions in affected lockdown states.
The message from Mr. President is that no Nigerian should, on account of these rules, suffer any harm.
With the projection that COVID-19 cases in the country will increase, the nation's health sector managers are not leaving anything to chance.
We are already seeing what may be indications of sustained community transmission.
We have added 1 more lab this morning over the last few days, so we now have 8. Between Sunday and Monday, we hope to activate Kano and from there start a series of labs in the northern part of Nigeria.
All radio stations and television stations should not entertain any unverified claim as to vaccines or drugs or treatment. Anyone that does so will be fined.
While the 2-week lockdown continues in Lagos, Ogun, and the Federal Capital Territory, traders and business owners were advised not to exploit fellow Nigerians by hiking prices of commodities. In Abuja, Mitare Ikwen, NTA News.
In the midst of rising cases of coronavirus pandemic across the world, some citizens are harboring fears that Nigeria may likely witness the worst-case scenario as seen in other countries seriously hit by the outbreak. Joseph Johnson, who visited the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, to see firsthand how the different units operate, especially as new cases continue to pop up, reports that workers are on their toes daily to contain the virus.
This is the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, headquarters in the Federal Capital Territory. Although the situation here is quite unlike what you see in other countries where the coronavirus pandemic is taking its toll, and not just the health of the people, but also nations' economies. But make no mistake, desperate times are here. There's no need sugarcoating that. Perhaps that's the reason why the NCDC is dotting its I's and crossing its T's towards prepping all its units, should in case what is most feared across the country becomes a reality in Nigeria.
Cover your nose with a tissue paper while sneezing or coughing.
This is the Connect Center of the NCDC, where all calls concerning the coronavirus pandemic are being received from across the country. Now, these agents here, busy receiving calls, obviously, are proficient in the 3 major Nigerian languages. The center receives a minimum of 1,500 numbers of calls daily. This agent told NTA News that most days can be overwhelming.
You have different type of callers. Some are calling out of fear, some are calling out of curiosity, some are calling to actually know if what they hear that NCDC is doing is true or not.
At the Incident Coordination Center, Manager, National Coronavirus Emergency Operations, was optimistic that there is no cause for panic. His relaxed body language conveyed his optimism pretty well.
We can't get to that level. So we at NCDC, we are doing all we can to ensure that we don't have that spread in the community.
Nigeria, like elsewhere, is preparing for the front line to tackle what seems to be an overwhelming enemy of the human race. The killer punch, though, yet to be launched by the world. From the NCDC headquarters in Abuja, Joseph Johnson, NTA News.
Thank you, Joseph. As the Presidential Directive on Restriction Order on Movement enters day 4, Elizabeth Omori went round some parts of the Federal Capital Territory to ascertain the level of compliance by residents. Her report.
A drive from the Central Business District shows light human and vehicular movement compared to what is seen in Wuse, Area 1, Berger and Life Camp Road. At Gwarimpa, human and vehicular movement is like that of a regular day. Shops opened, residents on the move, and commercial tricyclists operating fully.
We've been eating carbohydrates, which we have in the house. I came to buy some fruits to balance our diet.
I want to get money so that we can buy diesel.
It does appear that the directive by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 for foodstuff markets at satellite towns to open between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. for residents is being misunderstood.
Said from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock, Okada may come find something to chop with our family.
No tricycle is supposed to operate at no time. The presidential directive is very clear. From this information now, we'll make sure that the sector commander in charge of FCT goes there to slug them.
Authorities are asking Nigerians to obey the stay-at-home directive and observe proper hygiene practices in order to reduce the spread of COVID-19. In Abuja, Elizabeth Omori, NTA News.
More than 1 million cases of coronavirus have been recorded globally, a new grim record as the world grapples with the spreading pandemic. Joyce Matthew gives us the latest COVID-19 developments on the global scene.
The number of confirmed COVID-19 cases worldwide has risen above 1 million. The tally, as updated on Friday at 8 p.m. local time, showed a total of 1,081,153 people have been diagnosed with the virus across the world, with a death toll of 58,127, while recoveries stand at 227,735. The United States has the world's highest number of cases, with nearly 250,000 confirmed infections. Half of the country's deaths have been in New York. The U.S. recorded 1,169 coronavirus-related deaths in just 24 hours. That represents a new biggest daily death toll in any country since the outbreak began. In Europe, Spain has overtaken Italy in its total number of confirmed cases, meaning it is now fighting the second biggest outbreak in the world. The latest figure shows that the country now has 117,710 infections. 932 people have died over the past 24 hours. The death toll is still behind Italy, which has recorded 13,915, while France has recorded 5,387 more. And in the United Kingdom, the number of confirmed coronavirus cases is also on the rise, with nearly 38,168 now testing positive across the country. 3,605 people have died and 135 have recovered. The number of deaths in Germany has risen to more than 1,000. It now has more cases than China, according to figures from Johns Hopkins University. In the meantime, Iran, the country most affected in the Middle East, has seen its death toll rise to 3,294, as it claimed 134 lives in the past 24 hours. In Africa, the outbreak appears to have reached almost every nation on the continent of 1.2 billion people. As at Friday, 6 p.m. local time, the Africa Center for Disease Control reported 7,028 cases of the virus, 284 deaths, and 561 recoveries. And that's a global update on COVID-19. Thanks for staying. I am Joyce Umetu.
And from Lagos State, 4 more COVID-19 patients have fully recovered and also discharged as the battle against the dreaded virus disease intensifies in Lagos State. Nosa Osula, who was at a briefing by the State Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Aboyomi, reports that this brings the total number of recovered persons to 24.
Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who is the incident commander in the state, had in a statement on the update on coronavirus in Lagos disclosed release of 11 more patients from the state's facility in Yaba on Thursday. According to the Commissioner for Health, a total of 98 cases are in Lagos, Etiosa with 47 cases, Ikeja 24, Lagos Mainland 11, and Agege, Alimosho and Ikorodu with 1 each. The Commissioner added that the primary objective of government is to flatten the curve, and the ministry, in collaboration with relevant stakeholders, are doing everything possible to ensure that they reduce the way people are infected.
Most of our patients have had mild disease, some bordering on moderate. We have had no deaths, and our patients seem to be profiling well.
Professor Abayomi added that training is ongoing for medical health care workers to increase the workforce and improve service delivery, adding that the ministry is doing contact tracing for about 2,450 persons that had contact with confirmed coronavirus patients in the states.
We have 5 ventilators in Yaba. We have another 10 in Oniko. We have about 6 at Lasuth.
Every statement that we have issued, we have told the public that they should mind and be wary of any information they get on the social media.
Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Benga Omotosho, also urged.
When President Muhammadu Buhari ordered a total lockdown on Abuja, Lagos and Ogun State for a period of 2 weeks, it was to ensure strict compliance with the rule of social distancing, a practical measure that must be taken to stop further spread of COVID-19. However, during a drive-by on Friday, Becky Mado Jemo came upon shocking scenarios that exposed the restless nature of most Lagos residents. Well, moving on, the report will come in our subsequent bulletin. State governments across the Federation has taken drastic measures to stop the spread of coronavirus in their state. Linda Okore-Igwe compiled reports across the state.
In Ebonyi State, Kinsilo Okoro reports that Governor David Umahi has signed into law a bill on coronavirus and other related matters. Also in Ekiti State, Ayodeji Ogunshaki reports that communities are...
We apologize for that also. And even though there is no confirmed case of coronavirus in Kano, the state government has designated 3 health facilities to handle emergencies. Abdullahi Mustafa visited one of the facilities and sent in this report. This also will come in our subsequent bulletin. In compliance with federal government directives, social investment program in Sokoto has commenced disbursement of funds to beneficiaries of conditional cash transfer in the state. Musa Abubakar, who was at the flagging off of the payment at Tambuwal, reports.
With more and more restrictions to check the spread of COVID-19, beneficiaries of social investment program thought they had to wait longer for their next payment. This is not to be for the beneficiaries of conditional cash transfers. Saadatu Umar and others who received 2 months' payment expressed satisfaction with the development. This followed directives of the President to commence 2 months' payment with the aim of cushioning the effect of tight restrictions on socio-economic activities due to the coronavirus pandemic.
For the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, to commence payment of the stipends given to vulnerable people in each local government of the country.
For now, we are paying the beneficiaries for the first phase, 10,000 naira.
With more than 3,000 beneficiaries in the state, the payment is part of the efforts to make social distancing more effective among citizens. In Sokoto, I am Musa Abubakar, NTA News.
And from Cross River State, Governor Ben Ayade has approved the release of the sum of 500 million naira and 20 vehicles to combat the spread of COVID-19 and keep the state free from the global pandemic. The governor gave the approval during the inauguration of COVID-19 Task Force Response Team to enable them effectively perform their mandate without challenges. Paul Abel completes the report.
The team, headed by the Commissioner for Health, Dr. Betta Edu, is to primarily ensure that all preventive measures against the spread of the disease are strictly adhered to in the state, as well as make available medicines, food supplies, and other welfare packages to the people during this period of lockdown. With the negative economic impact of the lockdown on the people, the state government promises palliatives and appeals to the federal government to give special consideration in setting up testing, isolation and treatment centers in the state due to its strategic border location with Cameroon, which has almost the same number of cases with Nigeria.
Please let the President, let the Minister of Health isolate Cross River State and treat it irrespective of the fact that we have 0 incident. But the potential and the cumulative impact of it will be very cataclysmic.
The governor, who appreciates corporate bodies for supporting the fight, also appealed to other well-meaning individuals to join the state to make it COVID-19 free. In Calabar, Paul Abel, NTA News.
And joining me via Skype to talk about this and more is the Governor of Cross River State, Ben Ayade. Thank you so much for joining us on Network News.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you took some drastic measures initially when the spread of COVID-19 started spreading across states, even though you didn't have a single case then, and now you just released 5 million naira and 20 vehicles to combat the spread of COVID-19. My question is, how prepared is the state to prevent the spread of COVID-19? How prepared are you? What is the state of facilities there?
The state is really prepared and totally prepared because we understand its etiology, we understand the ontology, and so we have prepared ourselves just in case we have an incident or we have any case. However, we have released 500 million, we have released 20 vehicles, and we just made an additional order of another 30 vehicles because we have very porous borders with over 32 illegal routes into Cross River State from the Cameroon. So you can understand why we have to put all of this in place. And of course, isolating the state from external ingress of this virus is very critical. Since internally we don't have, all I can do is to manage in a very, very kinetic balancing between lives and livelihood. So that way we are supplying medical supplies, also providing nose masks manufactured from our own garment factory. And that's very exciting. And that's where we're actually putting the state completely under a closed down externally from any influences.
Okay, or you really have a large spread of, land mass, and you just inaugurated the COVID-19 Task Force Response Team. What other strategies do you have in place to, curtail the spread of COVID-19 and ensure that it doesn't get to Cross River?
Well, first is that we have a new program called No Nose Mask, No Movement. We actually extended it to commence in full force from Monday because we're aware that we need to increase our distribution of the nose mask. We also know that social pressure, social negotiations, and social conviction to encourage people to stay back home and ensure that they put on their nose mask is also critical. We have also acquired a lot of medicines and also funding the team to ensure that in the event that we have an incident, we should respond quickly. It's good news to know that we sent out 4 samples recently to Iran. They are back all negative. And we're working along with all the medical centers here. Just in case we have an incident, we can respond quickly to it. But the good news is that Cross Riverians are very polished, gentle people. They understand the principles, they understand the sanitary habits, and everybody is working towards achieving that zero incident in Cross River State.
You said no nose masks, no movement. What is the quality of the nose masks you are producing in Cross River State?
Basically, that pushes me to the whole science of the whole concept of a nose mask. There's been no unanimity in literature, even in its research today, as to the efficacy of the nose mask. But basically speaking, at the bottom of at the underbelly of your tongue, that's where you have the mucal gland, which secretes mucin and glycoproteins. It's the mixture of mucin and glycoproteins that creates the mucus thickness where the virus itself draws its own protein from to form an interferon system that coats it and gives it its own protection. By so doing, it derives its own nutrient and alters the DNA synthesis process of the host. So when you put a mask, once a mask creates a structural fibrous network that can protect the mucus from spilling out. Of course, because the virus is embedded in that mucus, it becomes difficult for it to actually spread. So in spite of the fact that there are different types of masks, a manual blockade of your nasal droplets is sufficient to confer some structural defense. And that's medical. It's one of those when you apply epidemiology in the history sense, it's one of those great methods of so.
Well, thank you. I can see the professor showing there in you, and you actually know what you're talking about. Thank you so much for coming on Network News. I've been speaking with the governor of Cross River State, Ben Ayade, and has sort of shed light on, measures taken in Cross River State to curtail the spread of COVID-19 and ensure it doesn't go there. You're watching the news at 9. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. More reports will be coming your way.
The best and most efficient way to avoid getting infected is through regular hygienic and sanitary practices, as well as social distancing. As individuals, we remain the greatest weapon to fight this pandemic. By washing our hands regularly with clean water and soap, disinfecting frequently used surfaces and areas, coughing into a tissue or elbow, and strictly adhering to infection prevention control measures in health facilities, we can contain this virus.
Why you gonna stress yourself for everything? it's plenty package. Why you can't still they manage? Why you the stress? Why you the worry? Are you late? Oh yeah. You got everything you need.
You can choose to manage everything else, but not your data. Get more out of life with the new Airtel data plans. Dial *141# today. Data is life.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Katsina State Governor Right Honorable Aminu Masari has approved the appointment of COVID-19 fundraising committee to strengthen the containment measures already taken by the state government. The 11-man committee is chaired by the Deputy Governor, His Excellency Maniu Yakubu. The panel will identify and seek financial assistance from appropriate members of the public. They are mandated to handle procurement of needed equipment and medicament in liaison with the task force on COVID-19 and recommend any other palliatives. The committee has started receiving donations from philanthropists and financial institutions in the state. His Excellency Governor Aminu Masari has also appealed to all and sundry, especially wealthy individuals and private organizations, to donate generously to the committee to enable the state contain the COVID-19 pandemic. Payment should be made to Katsina State COVID Support, account number 1022751974, UBA. Announcer, Secretary to the Government of Katsina State, Mustafa Muhammad Inwa.
She's got the hots for me. I think she likes me.
I don't think so.
Cut it out. That's my girlfriend. Guys, I'm out. Sweet boy, coming through. I'm all yours.
Ooh. So tasty.
How is it going in there? Pretty cozy. Mini-me. Taste the fun. The coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, has been declared by the World Health Organization as a global pandemic. While clinical trials are ongoing for a vaccine and a possible cure, there is no known treatment for the coronavirus. Nigeria has recorded some of these cases, and people are advised to take these preventive measures to keep themselves safe and contain the further spread of the virus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water or use hand sanitizers all the time. Maintain social distancing. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Practice respiratory hygiene. If you have fever, cough, and difficulty breathing, seek medical care early. Do not panic. Stop the spread of unconfirmed news. Follow the official government news outlets and report all cases immediately. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
In our nation drive to boost its economic base through non-oil export, Smedan has taken the challenge of industrializing our nation through a program called OLOB. OLOB is a program which identifies a product in a local government that has competitive and comparative advantage. And the aim of the program is to reach the 774 local governments and help the nation to industrialize. With the support of the federal government, Smedan was able to reach 218 local governments in our country by providing the cooperative group training, workspace, equipment, and working capital. We call on all the critical stakeholders in MSME ecosystem, as well as the international development partners, to join us in our vision to transform the economy of this country under the transformation agenda of Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari. In Smedan, we have a slogan, think big and start small.
The main way coronavirus spread is when infected people sneeze and cough. Small droplets of fluid expelled by cough or sneezes are laced with viruses looking for new respiratory tracts to infect. When a sick person sneezes around someone who is healthy, the virus can land in the nose, mouth, or even the eyes, causing an infection. Symptoms can include fever, cough, shortness of breath. Symptoms may appear within 2 to 14 days. Seek medical advice if you develop symptoms and have been in close contact with a person known to have COVID-19, or if you live or have recently been in an area with ongoing spread of COVID-19. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
As state governments continue to scramble to curtail the spread of COVID-19, the Federation has taken drastic measures to stop the spread of coronavirus in their states. Linda Okore-Igwe compiled reports across the state.
In Ebonyi State, Kingsley Okoro reports that Governor David Umahi has signed into law a bill on coronavirus and other related matters. Also in Ekiti State, Ayodeji Ogunshaki reports that communities are complying with the social distancing and restriction order of both the federal and state governments. While all the states are working round the clock to curtail the spread of the coronavirus, Katsina State government is also not left out in that direction, as more preventive measures are being enforced to mitigate its impact. Members of the public in Daura have also keyed into the clarion call as interstate movement restriction policy imposed is being held to. In Akwa Ibom State, Susan Asokwa reports that the state governor, Udom Emmanuel, has ordered a complete restriction of movement in the state for a period of 14 days. In Yobe State, Unisa Suleiman reports that Yobe State Committee on Prevention of COVID-19 inspected and assessed facilities at the isolation center. In Abuja, Linda Okore-Igwe, NTA News.
The proximity to the nation state. And back here in Abuja, Kauru local government area in Nasarawa State, one of the gateways to the FCT, has joined the League of Places ordered by government to observe the social restriction order because of its proximity to the nation seat of power. While on the spot assessment of the enforcement order, Francis Form reports that security agencies are working round the clock to ensure total compliance, though not without some hiccups.
Karu local government is home to an estimated 30% of workforce in Abuja. This makes it easy for the residents to easily contract the dreaded coronavirus. This explains why the Nasarawa state government enforced a lockdown order in the area to prevent the spread of COVID-19.
We will continue to appeal to our people to understand this and know that this is for the sake of lives of citizens. But as a government, we cannot allow a few to put the lives of the majority at stake.
Keeping to the government rules and regulations is very important, but there are other serious things that government need to look and put in place. Like my wife now, she's pregnant, and we need medical attention.
A visit to Nyanya checkpoints, a boundary between the FCT and Nasarawa State, suggests a partial compliance as many are seen going about their businesses, although security operatives were seen trying to enforce the order.
My duty is to enforce law, and that we are doing. And we will do it patriotically, we will do it nationalistically.
The CP said the order by the government is in the best interest of the citizens. From Cairo in Nasarawa State, Francis Form, NTA News.
We now bring you the report on the eventful lockdown on Friday in Lagos by Becky Mado Jemo.
The energy and vibe in Lagos Friday are at variance with footages of empty cities in overseas countries under lockdown projected by foreign cable news channels. More cars are on the roads. It was mind-boggling confronting pockets of gridlock at ramps. Even ambulances that may likely have feverish, breathless patients on board are no longer having an easy, breezy ride. Talking about ambulances, they now dot major roads in Lagos. My camera lens caught an ambulance driver helping out a few stranded hitchhikers. If you are wondering how safe it is to catch a ride on an ambulance right now, considering the risks involved, what would you say about this crowd on the sidewalk of the Lekki-Ekpe Expressway?
social distancing gone bizarre, you would certainly say. These are protesters clamoring for food. An angry spokesman alleged that executive members of Ikate Community Development Association are holding on to a truckload of food items due them.
It's what the protest we say. Dead na dead. If virus kill us na dead. If hunger kill us na dead. For a quarter year, virus no kill us. Now hunger they won't kill us. For 3 days now, it be like 6 months. We don't get food to eat. Now they will come outside.
The CDA chairman dismissed the allegation and assured that the protesters will get their fair share soon.
We met yesterday with a solid arrangement. They are bringing what we call a food support to the community that will cover more than 2,000 plus families.
When will that come?
That will be tomorrow. We are making the arrangement.
As I moved far away from the dramatic location, I observed that enforcement was rather lukewarm. Some checkpoints were unmanned, while others were besieged by multiple queues of vehicles, with motorists taking turns to prove to overwhelmed enforcement agents that they are essential workers or have emergency situations at hand. I also discovered that commercial drivers are back in business, but tactically avoid checkpoints.
When we got to Majek, they actually stopped our vehicle not to move anymore, the police. So we don't have any other option than to check because I'm going to the bank. I just need the money.
From the look of things, the coming days would most likely be hectic in the metropolis. In Lagos, Becky Madu.
As part of the federal government's effort to cushion the effect of the lockdown across the country, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development has commenced the process of releasing the 70,000 metric tons of grains and other food items as directed by President Muhammadu Buhari. Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, in an exclusive interview with our agriculture correspondent Musa Baba Aliu, says the food items will be released from 7 centers across the country.
The 70,000 metric tons of grains are to be released from 7 centers across the country. The locations are Mina in Niger State, Lafia in Nasarawa State, Dusema in Katsina State, Yola in Adamawa State, Gusau in Zamfara State, and Ilesha in Osun State. The Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Muhammadu Sabananono, said all the food items are in good condition and ready for handing over to the National Emergency Management Agency.
As far as we are concerned, we are prepared to carry the President's directive, and we believe that by next week we'll be in a position to hand over to NEMA.
The ministry, being a member of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, said the mechanism have been put in place towards ensuring that the food items are not diverted.
What we advise NEMA in our various meetings is that they should also seek to work with other stakeholders down the line, especially the state governments and the state emergency management agencies, to ensure that the vulnerable are properly identified.
We have a standard lab that will carry out analysis, and this has been done to ensure that the food is safe for consumption.
Of the 70,000 metric tons, 5,000 metric tons of cassava flakes, popularly known as gari, are ready for immediate release, while the grains are to be bagged before evacuation. In Abuja, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
Now, President Muhammadu Buhari has directed the Nigerian army to join the police to flush out bandits from forests across the country, particularly in the areas that witnessed recent attacks. In a statement by a senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Garba Shehu says the president gave the directive in response to the killing of 22 people in Sokoto State, whose community was attacked by armed bandits, as well as the reported killing of 10 others in Basa local government area of Plateau State. In a quick response, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Burate, ordered the general officers commanding the army formations in the affected states to reinforce the police efforts to track the bandits and bring them to justice. President Buhari also commiserated with the government and people of the 2 states, assuring Governors Aminu Tambuwal and Samuel Lalong of the federal government support in bringing to an end the spate of attacks in the region. Meanwhile, the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs has directed all its missions abroad to compile a list of willing Nigerians stranded abroad in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic who want to come home. According to Abike Dabri Erewa, Chairman CEO Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, the interested Nigerians are advised to inform the missions in the various countries they are in, who will then collate and coordinate with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or go online and fill a form provided on the Commission's website. She also noted that the financial implications will be borne by the prospective evacuees who will be compulsorily quarantined when they return. Let's now join Jennifer in Lagos for more reports on what is happening there. Hello, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jumai. Now, in spite of the lockdown, business activities are ongoing at the seaports. This is sequel to the federal government's directive that importation and exportation of goods are essential services that should be exempted from the restriction. Ken Igbeluge reports.
Activities at the Apapa and Tikan Island ports are central for the growth of the nation's economy. This is why they were exempted from the lockdown, considering the essential services they provide. This move by the government is also to avoid congestion at the ports. To ascertain the level of compliance, members of the Nigerian Shippers Council visited the ports for an on-the-spot assessment.
At the moment, we are operating with 30–40% of our staff strength, and we see a low level of deliveries.
Challenge is this. For freight forwarders who wants to make payment for services that we render, they are not able to do it. It's important for the financial institutions, in Apapa Port to be allowed to operate.
Executive Secretary, Nigerian Shippers Council, assured operators that arrangements have been made for operations at the ports to continue without hindrance.
We have initiated that and provided transport for critical workers at the ports, including freight forwarders, and they will use that transport to come in. We have also talked with some commercial banks, and they have cooperated.
Observers are of the opinion that with the measures put in place by government at the ports, importation and exportation at this period would be hitch-free. In Lagos, Ken Igbeluge, NTA.
We have more on the news, but after the break, stay tuned.
Welcome to our wonderful world of data with these incredible new offers from your #1 4G network nationwide. Glow Unlimited.
Son, being good at something requires strength. It requires putting in more. That's why the new improved Bonvita is packed with vitality and a richer, creamier taste.
What we are really cultivating here is a better future for all Nigerian women, and it's not always easy. Panadol Extra relieves headache, backache, joint pain, toothache, and menstrual pain. The pain is worth it.
Cadbury Hot Chocolate 3-in-1, a delicious combination of rich cocoa and wholesome goodness of milk. Just add hot water to get an instant chocolatey treat. Cadbury Hot Chocolate 3-in-1. Just add hot water.
Available in stores at 18 naira. There is a lot of fake news and report circulating, especially on social media, on the coronavirus. Do not believe or partake in the spread of these fake reports. If it is not on the official website or news from the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, disregard such report. Only together can we beat this virus. Only together can we overcome this pandemic. Follow the instructions and guidelines provided to combat this virus. Most importantly, stay at home. Self-isolate, regardless of your status. The virus doesn't move unless we move. Let us work together to better Nigeria. Together, we can do this. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Shegun. Alpha, say tomorrow still day on.
What's your tomorrow?
Community meeting now.
You know they here, Abi?
Now beg you. See, if we meet for my house, inside parlor, then go no.
This COVID-19 is not a child's play.
If we want to elect a new secretary, we fit to
Do one for WhatsApp, or for Skype, or even on Zoom. Or we just wait.
I will not negotiate
This social distancing. It is non-negotiable.
Not every infected person shows symptoms, but every infected person is contagious. Avoid large gatherings and self-isolate if you think you might have come in contact with a carrier. Your safety and the safety of others is in your hands.
This message is from the Akinfade Foundation in partnership with the National Orientation Agency with support from MacArthur Foundation.
It's good to know you're still there. The Imo State Governor, Hope Uzodinma, says his administration is taking the fight against COVID-19 beyond prevention and control, but has also designed a policy that can guarantee sustainability of the health sector. He made this known during the official flag-off of COVID-19 Isolation Center and distribution of ambulances in Owerri, Imo State. Bright Bucho has details.
Governor Hope Uzodinma says the isolation and treatment centers and state-of-the-art ambulances to be distributed to the 27 local government areas of Imo State are part of his administration's determination to prevent and contain not just COVID-19 but other contagious diseases. He commended indigents and residents of the state for complying with the measures so far put in place and promised that government will not relent in the effort to ensure their safety.
The Imo initiative is therefore intended to spur us as a government and as a people to rise to the occasion and stand up valiantly for our rise to freedom from rampaging diseases.
Chairman Imo State COVID-19 Prevention Committee, Professor Maurice Iwu, and Commissioner for Health, Dr. Damaris Osunkwo, say the facilities will serve as a major boost to the fight against COVID-19, urging the people to continue to comply with safety rules.
The Defense Isolation Center, as we keep saying, is your home.
With the flag off, Imo State now has 6 COVID-19 isolation centers. The governor also used the event to launch 100 security vehicles procured for security agencies in the state. In Owerri, Bright Ebuchu, NTA News.
The Co-Marshal Federal Road Safety Corps, Dr. Boboye Oyeyemi, has cautioned FRSC personnel detailed on enforcement of the presidential directive on lockdown and other state restrictions to treat Nigerians with tolerance, civility, cautiousness, empathy, and resist anything that could lead to the Charter of Enforcement Patrol. According to BC Kazim, the Corps Public Education Officer, the Corps Marshal, while cautioning the personnel, endeavored them to be highly professional at this critical time, bearing in mind that torturing violators of established laws, even in the face of the present state of emergency, is not part of the professional ethics of the Corps. As such, all personnel detailed on these assignments must be tolerant, polite, and humane enough while relating with the public, because the Corps respect the fundamental human rights of every citizen. President Muhammadu Buhari sends warm felicitations to the chairman of the All Progressives Congress APC, Comrade Adams Oshomole, on his 68th birthday, wishing him more wisdom and strength as he continues to pilot the affairs of the governing party. The president, in a statement by the senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, joins family, friends and APC members, supporters across the country and abroad in saluting the party chairman for his courage, diligence and resilience in consistently rallying everyone around the onerous task of taking Nigeria to the next level. President Buhari affirms that Comrade Oshomole's skill in mobilizing people and resources has truly galvanized the party, with leaders at various levels regularly setting and realizing targets that will leave lasting legacies, especially in providing security, ensuring an inclusive economy that works for all, and promoting transparency and accountability. As the party chairman turns 68, the president urged more steadfastness and focus in carrying all members and supporters along in realizing the larger goal of making life better for all Nigerians, while appreciating his sacrifices for the nation over the years as a Labour leader and a governor. We take another break now. When we return, more report. Don't go away. Do stay.
For now, the best and most efficient way to avoid getting infected is through regular hygienic and sanitary practices, as well as social distancing. As individuals, we remain the greatest weapon to fight this pandemic. By washing our hands regularly with clean water and soap, disinfecting frequently used surfaces and areas, coughing into a tissue or elbow, and strictly adhering to infection prevention control measures in health facilities, we can contain this virus.
Katsina State Governor Right Honorable Aminu Masari has approved the appointment of COVID-19 fundraising committee to strengthen the containment measures already taken by the state government. The 11-man committee is chaired by the Deputy Governor, His Excellency Maniu Yakubu. The panel will identify and seek financial assistance from appropriate members of the public. They are mandated to handle procurement of needed equipment and medicament in liaison with the task force on COVID-19 and recommend any other palliatives. The committee has started receiving donations from philanthropists and financial institutions in the state.
Welcome back. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres says he is impressed by the effective measures put in place by Nigeria to fight the coronavirus pandemic. The UN Secretary General in an interview says Nigeria and other African countries have shown remarkable capacity to respond.
And I have to say that some of these developing countries have shown a remarkable capacity to respond. I was quite impressed to see, for instance, Nigeria, and Africa is of course a main concern of us all, Nigeria putting in place immediately in a stadium an hospital. And I saw difficulties in countries that are much more developed to do quickly the same. So there are efforts done by countries in the developing world that we should point, because they represent a very strong determination, but the resources available are, of course, insufficient, and the health services are usually extremely out of proportion with the needs of a pandemic like this. So massive support to the developing world is absolutely necessary.
The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) has commended petroleum tanker drivers for their sacrifice ferrying petroleum products across the country. The corporation's Group General Manager, Group Public Affairs Division, Dr. Kenny Obatiro, acknowledged the tanker drivers' selfless service during the lockdown in ensuring smooth distribution of petroleum products. Elizabeth Omori has details.
Players in Nigeria's oil and gas industry are advocating the formal engagement of illegal and artisanal refineries to address local consumption of petroleum products. This call to look inwards for solutions to Nigeria's domestic energy needs becomes necessary, considering Nigeria's unique position as a producer of refined petroleum products, spending about 1.5 trillion naira on subsidizing only petrol in 2019. Following recent continued drop in the price of crude oil in the international market to the $20 per barrel band, with a resultant reduction in the pump price of refined petroleum products and a high-cost element of marine transportation, a statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Ita Enang, says it is the right way to go. The agitation, which has the endorsement of the NNPC, NDDC, NATI, NOSTRA, PTDF, and the Association of Artisanal Local Operators in Nigeria, is further based on the conviction that local refining capacity would be boosted with more value addition, less crude theft, cleaner environment, as well as proper allocation of dwindling funds in the current global reality driven by the coronavirus pandemic. Meanwhile, a statement by the Managing Director of the NNPC Retail Limited, Billy Okoye, notes that NNPC retail filling stations, numbering more than 600 across the country, are to remain operational throughout the period of the lockdown to meet the energy needs of Nigerians. He assured that all NNPC retail outlets are wet with sufficient petroleum products ready to serve the public. With PPMC depots holding its products in various states of the Federation, daily trucking to stations across Nigeria will be sustained. The statement urged consumers not to engage in panic buying. The NNPC also commended state governors for allowing petroleum tankers to crisscross their states despite the movement restriction. The managing director also applauded NARTL, NUPING, and all other service providers in the downstream value chain for their support.
An Islamic organization, Jamhiyyatu Asaruddin Tijaniya, is calling on Nigerians to embrace God and whatever faith they profess, especially at this trying time. National Secretary of the organization, Sheikh Muhammad Al-Qasim Yahya, said this has become important in the view of the coronavirus pandemic ravaging the entire world.
That our general problem now is to unite towards the solution of this calamity. All of us have our sins. Everybody should really look inward and redesign and have a change pattern on how we see one another. Muslims, Christians, and everyone, even those who don't believe in any religion, they should come back to the path of humanity. Humanity.
The nation is determined to engage in prayers to seek Allah's mercy and forgiveness. Just before we go, a special package on the national response to coronavirus pandemic comes up tonight at 10:30 p.m. shortly after the network news. All NTA stations are advised to stay on the network service of the NTA. That's the network news for tonight. Thanks so much for watching. Have a wonderful weekend.
Plaques of fluid expelled by cough or sneezes are laced with viruses looking for new respiratory tracts to infect. When a sick person sneezes around someone who is healthy, the virus can land